Welcome into another episode of In the Bonus. Isis Young and myself, Megan Caffrey, are so happy to be joined with you guys for another week. And Ice, we're into 2025. You, my girl, were in the studio this past weekend, crushing it. You've been busy.
Thank you. Happy New Year. Good to see you. Busy is good this time of year. Anytime that I get paid to talk hoops, I'm happy. And so CBS Studio has been fun. We're picking up the women's basketball coverage there too. Any chance I can, y'all know I'm representing all anytime. But it's been great so far. How's everything been for you in the new year? Miss Fiance, let's congratulate you. Yes, show
I
the
know.
ring. Congratulations.
Crazy. Very exciting. I'm so pumped. Thank you very much. Thank
You're
you. And my
welcome.
fiance now knows, okay, we will plan a wedding. However, the wedding cannot get in the way of basketball season. So
Absolutely not. I wouldn't have it any other way. I love
not
it.
allowed to happen then. But our teams, Ice, these teams have been honestly, it's early conference play, but the teams have been bringing some of their best basketball, honestly. And I think
Mm.
we saw this past week what Seton Hall is able to do. The Pirates went 2-0 this past week, beating Villanova on the road with a wild shot to finish it by Faith Masonis. And then at home, overtime victory over Georgetown. They have just been gelling. They look so good and they look bought in also is something that I really noticed about them.
Yeah, and no surprise. I mean, Coach Vizela does a great job of getting leaders for his team every year. Amari Wright has been there now. It seems like she's been there for 7 years playing under him, but they have high leadership. I know that they're bought in. And a couple things stuck out to me about those wins. They won in different ways. Versus Villanova, they were plus 13 on the boards. So
Mhm.
really dominated the glass, which controls the game for them. And then versus Georgetown, they forced 23 turnovers versus the Hoya. So you talk about that game going to overtime, having to battle that out. And teams that win during overtime, it's half luck, half experience, right? It's knowing what you're supposed to do during the last 5 minutes of the game and being able to make plays. So the Pirates with a really strong start, 4-0, but I mean, back-to-back wins in a week in which you have to win by less than 3 points. That is all about big. That's Big East play right there for you.
Yeah, and quick turnarounds too, right? You got Wednesday to Sunday right there. So it's just you got to prioritize recovery and everything. But I love that you brought up defense with the Pirates because there's another team I think that's their defense is kind of standing out to you a little bit as well, huh, Ice?
Yes. Yeah, man. As I've been doing my coverage across the country, you're always looking at teams that are defensively strong and consistent. And Marquette right now are holding teams to shooting 34.6% from the field.
Mm.
Under 35%. That's 11th in the nation in opponent's field goal percentage. So what that means is that when you're playing the Golden Eagles, you're not getting high percentage looks and you're not getting them open. They
Mm.
close out. They suffocate defense. They make sure that they get their hands up. And watching this team play a couple times this season, I'm impressed with their effort on rotations. Sometimes I think that they're beat and like, oh, she's not going to get there. And they make that extra effort and it makes all the difference. So a shout out to them for being top 15 in the country and opponent's field goal percentage. So that's huge.
It's so huge. And something else I think that we need to chat about a little bit here because it did happen this past Sunday with UConn in their game against Villanova. Paige Beckers, she went out, she didn't finish the game with a knee injury. However, Gino did come out as of Tuesday to announce that Paige isn't playing on Wednesday, but he does have high expectations for her to be coming back. It's sounding a little bit like a knee sprain. So, good news. We're sad, obviously, that we're not going to be able to see her, but thank God it's nothing more serious at the moment. And also, potentially, it may be a little bit of an opportunity for some of these other players to step up. You got to spin it into a positive, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. One thing with UConn, they're not worried about depth, right? We
Yeah.
know that, sometimes, and I say this nicely, Coach Oriema has had all the depth on his bench, but maybe has only gone with 6 or 7 players because of who he trusts. And so I think this is an awesome opportunity for some players coming off the bench to build more trust and just step up. AZ Fudd has been getting back on the court. She's played 22 minutes, 26 minutes. So she's starting to get her feel back. I'd imagine with Paige not playing that they'll count on her a little bit more. But a KK Arnold, a player that hasn't started, that's consistently come off the bench for the Huskies, this is an opportunity for her to step up. And we know what KK can do. But I think anytime that you don't have Paige Beckers on the floor, you're losing so much. You're losing leadership, the
Yeah.
experience, the points, the rebounds, assists, and all that comes with that. And so there's an opportunity for a perimeter guard or several of them to step up and fill that void. And I think the other thing we have to be honest about is, we hope that she's not out for many games, but we're in January. And so I'm just hoping that by February that she's back on the court and she's healthy and there's no rush during this period to get her back on the court. I think the Huskies can handle conference play with the depth that they have. But most importantly for them, they won a national championship this year. And so they need to do that with a healthy Paige on the floor. We hope that she takes her time and takes time to recover.
Amen to that, Ice. Okay. We have something fun that we're going to try out, a new little game that we're going to play. Okay. We're having a game on in the,
Okay, I
all
love
right.
it.
We're
I
going to
love
call
it.
this segment 3 minutes, three questions. So we've got three questions that we are going to answer here today. Each of us have 30 seconds to answer. So I'm going to have my trusty timer out
Love
and
it.
let's see. And it's going to be a hard, you get cut off.
I got you.
Okay, team or team ice. I'm reading my question already.
Team Ice.
Team ice. Team ice. I love it. Okay, question number one. What team in the Big East is impressing you the most at the moment?
Yeah, it would have to be the Seton Hall Pirates. I mean, just again, winning back-to-back close games, a 1-point game versus Villanova, and then knocking off Georgetown in overtime, which is a tough team. Those teams both go at it. So the way in which they played last week, getting those back-to-back games, and then we'll talk about their schedule that they have coming up this week. But to me, they've been the most impressive. I asked you the same question, Meg. Which team has been the most impressive for you?
Honestly, who's been standing out to me of recent, and I know that you mentioned them with their defense, but Marquette is. Marquette, new head coach comes in this year, right? So the Golden Eagles right now are 2-1, and I genuinely think we're starting to see the emergence of Skylar Forbes. The sophomore forward is just coming into her own a little bit. I think you have to remember last year she only started 4 games, and now she's just a mainstay for Marquette. She started every single game for them this season. She leads the team on scoring and is second in rebounding. So I think we have to be on the lookout for her. Got it.
Yes, a
30.
big shout out to Kara Consuegra. It's nice to have her in conference play and bring in the defense. Second question. How is Kelsey Ransom playing some of her best basketball at this point in the season? My goodness.
My goodness is right, Ice. I love this young woman so much
Mm,
because she is just a competitor. She's let's not knock how well she's doing on offense. She's second in the league in scoring right now, right under Paige. She's literally right under there, but she brings defense to it, right? That's always been her mainstay, what she loves to do. And what I think is the most important thing about her, which separates her from other athletes, is she knows her why. And you can see it.
mm.
That was
Powerful
29.
word.
You're on the clock, girl.
On the clock. Man, you can't say enough about Kelsey Ransom. I mean, we have talked to her, we've had her on this pod, but what I have to say right now is that she's a grad student. Like, Kelsey is mature. She knows what's expected of her on both sides of the basketball. She loves to be a leader. She demands the highest of the most of herself in terms of accountability. But also throughout the season for Georgetown, they've had several injuries to major players like a Brianna Scott who's had to sit games. And so knowing Kelsey, knowing her personality, she then demands more of herself when she knows that her full team is not there. And so I think that's what we're seeing is her demanding a higher level from herself. I tell you what, man, we don't talk enough about Kelsey in terms of WNBA conversation, but I think she could sneak on a team, get a training camp offer, and then make a team in the WNBA because of her versatility on both sides of the basketball. I like Kelsey at the next level. Now that we've talked glowingly about Kelsey, which we love to do, third question for you. Now, as we're in the thick of conference play, what is your favorite thing about Big East play?
Okay, I have to give a little bit of love to our coaches here. All right, I think it's two parts on this one. Okay, first, when you're watching the teams in the conference play, there are so many different styles of basketball that we see night in and night out. So credit to these coaches with their ability to not only bring creativity for themselves, but also make adjustments into totally different styles. You're going from one style to the next, night in and night out. And then on top of it, It is so much fun to watch these coaches. We have great personalities, and these coaches, they might have rivalries within the league. They genuinely care for one another.
Yeah.
They have a head coach text chain that goes on, so they're keeping up with one another, their lives. We think of what their do is as coaches, but they're all about the who as well.
I love that. I totally agree with the sisterhood and brotherhood that exists with our coaches. Even the new ones have entered the fold and seem like they've been here for a minute. So I love that answer. My answer to that, my favorite thing right now, since we're in the thick of it in conference play, is when the freshmen pop up and score.
Woo!
I thoroughly love when you're in the non-con and maybe some of these first years are kind of getting their feel for the game and they're adjusting to getting yelled at because no first year is good at playing defense. I don't care who you are. We just all have to adjust. But it's a story like a Jada Eads story. I mean, a player that wasn't starting the first couple of games for Seton Hall and then has started the last 7 or 8 and then in conference play has already had two 25 plus point games. I mean, she dropped 27 versus Georgetown, but that's not it. She also had 7 assists. She also had 4 rebounds. Meg, she also had 4 steals. Like, my favorite part is when some of these players that we don't necessarily know their names yet or they're newcomers to the league, they start to really emerge and then they put you on their watch list. And now she's at the top of the scout if you're playing the Seton Hall Pirates. So honestly, a shout out to her, but a shout out to any other freshmen or newcomers that come into the Big East and hoop.
Well, Ice, I honestly could not intro this interview that we have for this week's episode any better than what you just did. So I'm going to leave it at that. Everybody, please enjoy our interview with Seton Hall's Jada Eads. Welcome in the bonus, Jada Eads of Seton Hall. Jada, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Jada, first and foremost, you're a freshman coming into the league, the conference, Seton Hall. You're having an incredible season. So I just want to start there. Before we even talk about conference play or anything, what has it been like for you, the adjustment, maybe something that you didn't necessarily expect making this transition into now playing at the collegiate level that you're having so much success with?
Just starting this summer, like when I came in, like the amount of hard work you have to put in, like I'm
Mm.
a person who wants to put in hard work and just seeing like the transition over from high school to college, the amount of patience you have to have for a small guard like me is something that was very important to me. That all of the coaches established that in the summer. So just being able to try to like, put that patience in there somewhere and be able to score, score the ball, get my teammates involved is something that I've been trying to adjust.
Where does that desire to put in the hard work come from?
Um, I feel like I've been overlooked, especially for my height and my size. So, um, like I know for like all the small guards or small players, period, just people that's been overlooked. I want to put the work in to, make those people feel like they've overlooked me, and I just want to prove my point or establish myself, no matter where it is, no matter what conference it is.
You say small guards, we're only 5'7". We're not that tiny.
I'm tiny.
I know it feels tiny, right? I know,
Yeah,
especially with the
just
teams
be
that
on
you
the.
guys have played. You have played some size in the non-conference too.
Yeah.
Well, Jada, I really want to ask you, you didn't start the first 5 games of this season. You had the chance to come off the bench, kind of get a feel for college basketball, the pace, the style, and then you kind of found your stride. Well, how did maybe not starting those first few games help you integrate a little bit better and really catch your rhythm?
Um, like at first I felt like I had the rhythm, before getting injured and then coming into the season, like not having that, exhibition game to get a feel of it.
Yeah.
So I just felt like that was something like that I needed. And for me to get back in rhythm, I needed a couple games, to see how it goes. Just being able to not start, seeing how the players are playing, my teammates, and just going in to see how I can adjust and do different things to have success for my team. So I feel like I needed that. Like, God put us in different situations that we need to, become successful. So I feel like whatever happened, I needed it. I adjusted, and when I got up there on the floor, I feel like I did everything I was supposed to do.
Mm. You've had some big scoring games. We see against Butler, you had 26. Recently against Georgetown, you had 27. Do you feel like you're now in full rhythm? Like college basketball isn't shocking you, so to speak. You've adjusted, you're good to go. Like, tell me where you feel like you are.
I feel like I've definitely adjusted, and I feel like I'm getting a rhythm. Playing these big teams, and we have a big team coming up. Creighton, have UConn, St. John's, and all of those teams. I feel like like those will be some tests. And I feel like I'm getting a rhythm. Coaches are putting me in position to score and get my teammates involved. So I feel like all that would come to play, and just having these teams coming up will be a great feel to see how things will go in March and late February and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Since you mentioned some of those big games that are coming up for you, some of your teammates who are vets who are on the squad who have played these Big East opponents in years past, what are some of the things that they've been telling you to prepare yourself for to kind of also hype you up a little bit with playing some of these opponents?
Definitely like the shooters. Like the whole
Yeah.
conference is shooters. So just being able to get out there to the shooters and then helping and everything, helping my teammate. Just basically team defense is something that they established and they wanted to make known weekend in practice. But these are some big teams, some very skilled teams. So they've been telling me that. I've been trying to look at the scout, see what I can do and just, work from there.
Jada, you mentioned a little bit before also your teammates, and I'm curious, has there been someone on your team who's kind of maybe taken you under her wing a little bit that's helped you throughout this entire process get a little bit more comfortable and given you the confidence that you've needed to go out there and have the types of games that you're having?
Definitely our captains, Mari, Savannah Catalan, and Faith. Like, even when Savannah not playing, she's always there being a leader and giving the confidence I need, just guiding me, as well as Faith and Amari. Like playing all of those two, like they have experience, they have those years in. So whatever they feel like I need to adjust or they feel like they can tell me that will help me along the way, that's what they do. And I feel like it's very needed. Like it's the same with Iona Lopes. Like she does her job, everyone else does their job, and they help me as a freshman guard. Like it's a lot for me to learn.
What a treat that was. She is honestly, Jada does not come off as a freshman at
Not
all,
at all.
at all.
So mature.
And now I think it's we have to pay tribute to this a little bit. Looking at this upcoming weekend with the games that are happening around in the Big East, there is a game coming up that could potentially be a battle of undefeated teams in the Big East. Seton Hall 4-0 in conference play, and Creighton they do play Marquette this upcoming week on Wednesday. However, they have the potential to go in to this game against Seton Hall also unbeaten. And I think it's really interesting, guys, when you kind of look at this matchup. It's a little bit of this veteran squad where you have
Mm.
Creighton, right? The big four playing together again and again. And then you bring in Seton Hall, where you've got a freshman in Jada, right? The transfers in Faith, who they're all playing as if they've played together for years. I'm so excited for this game.
Totally. I mean, first of all, this is just a rivalry. I feel like every year I get one game of this Seton Hall Creighton matchup on CBS. And I love it. Last year I was in Nebraska for it. What I'll say is that, for Creighton, I've been really impressed with Keani Lockett.
Mm.
Anytime that you lose someone in your big three, which you mentioned Lauren Jensen and Morgan Molly, and last year was Emma Ronsick, who's moved on from them. And so I feel like Keani Lockett has stepped up. I mean, she shoots 35% from three, 47% from the field. So she's an efficient player. And I think there's room for her to score a little bit more and start to separate herself, maybe start consistently scoring in double figures for this team. But I'm just going to say that I would keep your eye on her throughout the course of that game. I think she's going to be critical to Creighton defensively and offensively if they want to get a win versus the Pirates.
And I love how you brought that up too, because it's interesting. And speaking with Lauren Jensen just the other week, Ice, it was so cool her take on her team, right? She was like, "Yeah, there's been a bulk of us who have been playing together for years now, but we're still that core unit is still developing chemistry, and then add in some of these players who are getting more minutes than they have in the past." And so she was like, "Watch out, we're not playing our best basketball quite yet," and that is scary because we know
Mm.
what a Creighton team is capable of.
Especially under head coach Jim Flannery. I mean, Flan does a terrific job, and you know that they're not playing their best basketball now because that's how his system is designed. Wait until the middle of February, and then everyone will see it. That's how they shocked a couple people years ago and ended up in the Elite Eight with their timing and playing their best basketball at the right time. So it's definitely a dangerous team in the Big East, any way you look at it.
Well, that game tips off at 12 p.m. Eastern time. That is the first ice of 4 Big East women's basketball games on Saturday. You've got St. John's at Xavier, 2 p.m. Eastern time, Nova at Marquette at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and then UConn takes a trip to the Hilltop to play Georgetown at 4 p.m. Eastern time. That game is on SNY. The rest of the Big East women's basketball games you can catch on the BEDN. So we got a Saturday full of hoops. Where are you going to be this weekend?
Ah, yes. I have my first local game in Philly, men's basketball, Loyola Chicago at St. Joe's. And then on Sunday, I'm in the ACC women's basketball. I have number 3 Notre Dame at Clemson. So jam-packed. We'll be watching hoops all weekend.
Wouldn't want to have it any other way.
Nope.
Ice, as always, so much fun. This is another episode of In the Bonus. Be sure to tune in again next week.